Claudette with theycallmemartha.com, and today I'm bringing you a quick and easy card design that you can put together in just a few minutes. And then I'm going to show you how you can take this design up a level just by adding in some quick and easy details and incorporating a few more supplies from your stash. So let's go ahead and get started making this quick and easy card. Today I decided to use some scraps from my paper stash, and I just needed a small little space. So I went straight away to my 6x6 paper pads because I'm sure, like you have a bunch of them in your collection, and I think they often don't get a whole lot of use. So today I pulled out my Hello Summer pad from Echo Park, and I've used it over the years for lots of little projects here and there, but somehow my 6x6 pads have kind of gone to the back of my closet, and I haven't been using them a lot lately, and I'm determined this year to use as many of them as I can. So all you need to do is start with a scrap of paper that's 1.5 inches wide by 6 inches tall, and then you want to create a card base. And in this case, we're going to do a top folding card. And so I've cut my A2 size card, which is 4.25 by 11 in this case, and I'm going to score it at 5.5 to make my top folding A2 size card base. So with the long side of my paper along the top of my scoreboard, I'm scoring in half at 5.5. And then I'm going to rotate it once to the right so that that 4.25 inch side is along the top of my scoreboard. And now I'm going to add in some fun detail. Let me show you what that looks like in my card sample. So you can see here I've added in this embossed detail just by using my scoreboard. And I'm going to show you how you can add this in really easily. And it creates a place for us to put our pre-printed paper and create this cute little card. So again, with our 4.25 inch side along the top of our scoreboard, our first score is going to be at 1 3/4, and we're going to score until we reach that center score line that we made in step 1. So again, I'm going from 1 3/4 down to that halfway mark. Then I'm going to go 1 7/8, which is the very next tick mark on your scoreboard, and then 2. So let me repeat those numbers to you. 1 3/4, 1 7/8, and 2. And I'm just adding in that nice detail. Then we're going to skip a section, and that section essentially is where our pre-printed paper is going to get glued in. And then we're going to make this same pattern again. So we're going to score at 3.5. And we're going to stop in that same center spot. 3 5/8, which again is the very next tick mark, and 3 3/4. So those numbers again were 3.5, 3 5/8, and 3 3/4. Okay, now I'm just going to fold and crease my card base. So again, I've got my fold along the top, and now I'm going to take my paper strip, and in this case, I'm just going to use wet glue, and I like to use wet glue so that I can wiggle it around a little bit and make sure that it's lining up just right. And so I'm going to apply glue to the back of my paper strip, and then what I want to do is line it up so that the top edge is flush with my card, and that left and right, it nestles right between those score lines. And then I'm just going to make sure that it's straight all the way down, and then give it a good press. Then I can come back in and trim this edge. But what this allows us to do is make sure that we get the exact right measurement. If I went ahead and I just cut this at 5.5, sometimes you end up with a little white gap at the end or at the top, which it's just one of those little details that I kind of focus in on. So that's why I like to just take the time, make this little extra step, and then come back and trim it later. So now that that's glued down, if you flip it over, now you have the exact visual line of where you need to cut that off. All right, now I'm going to add Just a little detail. If you're not familiar with these are called peel-offs. These are sold by a UK company called Love from Lizi. They sell a lot of different paper collections and kits, but the peel-offs are by far my favorite product that they sell. And they also come in a lot of different colors and finishes. And I use them on every project I can think of. I love this little detail. But if you don't have a pinstripe like this, you can cut a really thin strip of paper, or you may have some other border stickers in your stash that you can use. But I'll go ahead and link these up in the video description in case you're interested in learning more about Love from Lizi. And so here I'm just going to pull one of these little pinstripes. And the way I like to apply them is I hold them with a couple of my fingers so that they don't fold in on each other. And I'm just going to follow the edge of where the patterned paper meets the card base and just let the pinstripe fall right along that edge. Can add so much to the overall design of your card. So I've just laid that down, and then what I do is, once again, I flip my card base over, and then I can trim that away. Now, don't throw away this little piece. I like to, if it's relatively long enough, I'll go ahead and just pop it back on my sticker backer, and I can use it for a smaller project. So I'm going to repeat that on the opposing side, just by laying that, again, that sticker strip right where my printed paper meets my card base. And then I want to add a sentiment. And I went ahead and stamped and embossed some sentiments just to save some time. This is Tweet Greetings by MFT, which is my favorite things, a really great stamp company. And I thought this little collection went perfect with this paper. So cute little sentiments about birds. And so here I'm going to pick, how about you're my tweetest friend? And I'm going to use that as my sentiment. And then what I'm going to do is pop that up with a little bit of foam. And I have discovered from scrapbook.com these foam adhesive strips. They're perfect for more narrow sentiments. And I think there's other companies that are making this foam as well. But I happen to pick this one up from scrapbook.com. So I'm just going to add that little bit of foam to the back of my sentiment strip, and then peel off the liner and add that across the lower part of my card. And I'm just going to make sure that that's straight. And then to finish this quick and easy card design off, I'm just going to bring in my little pearls here and add a couple in the corners. I like to add like kind of like odd numbers, so like 3 or 5, and then just with a little dab of glue you can just pop a couple of these in. Let me add one more, maybe to this side. And then this quick and easy card design is all done. So again, we've taken a basic card design with just a simple strip of paper, probably from your scrap stash. And we've added the additional details of the scoring and then the pinstriping to come up with this cute little card. Okay, now we've finished our quick and easy A2 card. And I'm going to show you how you can add in some additional details to take this card to the next level. Let me show you what that looks like. So here's the exact same card design, just using different patterned paper. So you can see this one is very similar to this one, where I have that beautiful pinstriping, I have the embossed detail, and then the printed paper. And then I've taken that exact same card design. Again, here's that scoring, the pinstriping, but now I've included an acetate panel that allows for this sentiment strip to float and allows for a peekaboo of the paper underneath. So it just takes your card up to the next level and creates, I think, a really, really nice design. It actually comes together really quick and easy. Let me show you how to do it. So we're starting with that same A2 card base, top folding, and we're going to score it in half at 5.5. Rotate that cardstock once, and then now we're going to make those same score lines. And our first score line is going to be at 1 3/4. And we're going to stop at that halfway part. So 1 3/4, 1 7/8, and 2. So let me go over those one more time. So I've got 1 3/4, 1 7/8, and 2. So our first score line on this side is going to be at 3 3/8, which is 1 tick mark past 3 1/4, and then 3 1/2, and 3 5/8. So you can see we have that same embossed detail that we had in our previous card design. Okay, we're finished with our scoreboard, and now what we're going to do is we're going to, instead of laying our patterned paper in this center section, we're going to trim this away. And so I like to use my long scissors. If you like to use like an X-Acto knife, you can do that as well. But I'm just going to follow the inside score lines left and right just till I get to the top of the center score line. So I'm going to do that on both sides. And again, I'm going to stop right at that center section. Okay, now I'm just going to fold and burnish the card base just like we normally do. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to cut away this center section. And so after you've folded and burnished that down, you just want to trim this piece away from your card base. Right across that score line, you can cut it away. And so now your card base should look like this. And you want to take your clear acetate paper. I cut this to be exactly 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And you want to use an acetate paper that is a little thicker so that it can help with the stability on your card. Don't use like a real flimsy one. And typically they have a protective cover over, and sometimes it's hard to start. But if I'm just using my weeding tool here, oh, here we go. See that clear protective cover? You want to peel that away. I'm going to use wet glue, and I'm going to come not quite to that edge because I don't want the glue to seep out from underneath my panel. Because once it shows on the front of the acetate, it's there forever. So be really careful. I do suggest using wet glue here as opposed to like a tape runner, because you will need the opportunity to kind of wiggle it around a little bit and make sure that it's perfectly straight. So I've got my clear acetate panel. I'm going to line it up against the lower part of my card and then simply fold down my front covers and make sure that it's lined up left and right. And then I like to use a baby wipe that is dry. So I've left it out overnight. I use this a lot when I'm working with wet glue to pick up any of that excess glue that seeps out. And I'm just going to wipe my edges. Do the same thing on this side. And then just make sure that you're wiggling it around so that it is all the way at the top and that you've now sealed in your card front. Okay, just like that. Okay, so now we have that pretty little panel with the acetate there. Okay, then I've cut a piece of that same paper that we used in our first card, and this piece is 4 1/4 by 5 3/4. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my scoreboard back in. And with that 5 3/4 inch piece along the top of my scoreboard, I'm gonna score at 5 1/2. And this is just creating a little hinge for us to glue in this piece into our card. And you can see I've actually come in and added some additional details I use stickles here, but you can also use like a Wink of Stella pen or some of the other glitter markers to add some of that additional detail to the patterned paper. And it takes, again, your card to the next level. So now that I've scored that top piece, I'm just going to create a little hinge by folding that down. And then I'm going to open my card base and glue this in side my card so that that little piece that's on the back, that little hinge, is what connects it to our card base. So I'm just going to fold and burnish that down. And then back to my wet glue, I'm going to add wet glue on this little hinge. And I'm not over gluing this because I don't want to mess, but just enough that I can go edge to edge. And then I'm going to nestle that into the top part of my card, right up against that middle fold line. And then I'm going to make sure that my edges line up left and right and along the bottom, and then give that a good press. Open it up, and I'm coming back in with my dry baby wipe and giving that a press as well. I've picked up all that glue that's oozed out. And so now my card base is done. I'm just going to come back in and fold it, burnish it one more time. And then I'm going to go take this to my paper trimmer and just clean up these edges a little bit. So here's where I'm going to go in and I'm going to add my stickers just like before. So these are my peel-offs, and I'm going to add them along that edge of the acetate and the cardstock. So right there along the edge, left and right. I'm going to make sure that I give that a good press along the top, and then I'm going to trim off this excess. Okay, so now I want to add my sentiment strip, and I'm just going to bridge over that clear acetate paper. Now you can just go ahead and glue it down, or you can pop it up like we did the other card. And so I'm just going to show you a little tip for how to hide your foam. So if I put foam behind my strip like so, and I attach it to my card front, you're going to see it. So when I go ahead and I glue this down, you're going to see that white foam. Now if you don't care, leave it alone, but I'm going to show you how you can hide it. So I've just taken a little scrap of black paper, and I'm just going to cut a little piece of it, and then on the back of my sentiment strip, I'm going to release my adhesive on the back of my foam, and then I'm going to take this little piece of paper, and I'm basically going to cover up the part that's going to cover my sentiment. So let's see, I think that's going to go right about like that. So I'm just lining up visually about where it's going to be. And then I'm just going to pop this little strip of black paper across the foam strip so that it hides the white part. Then I'm going to come in and I am going to add a little bit of wet glue on top of my foam. Don't put glue here where you've put the black paper. And then I'm going to line up my sentiment strip, and adding that little bit of wet glue on top of my foam allows me just enough time to wiggle it around and make sure that it's straight before my glue sets up. So you can see when I open my card, that white part is gone. Now this inside part where your glue is, that will dry eventually and it will become less visible. If it bothers you, you could cover this up with some additional strips of paper from, you know, your paper collection. You could come in and add to the top, but I actually don't mind it because once this dries completely, you really don't see it. Now, one additional detail you can do is, again, this is kind of our stepped up version of this card, is I've just taken some of the scraps of that paper and I fussy cut out a couple of these cute little birds. And so I'm going to layer them in. And then I've got some little clouds that I cut out. I'm not quite sure exactly what I'm going to use here, but let's see. Here's a little banner that we could add. And what's cute is I just fussy cut around it. And then if I bring it across the front of my card, now it bridges that acetate paper. So I'm just going to, I think, trim it right about there. And then when I glue it in, on the back, you can see that pretty yellow patterned paper. I'm just going to add glue, I think, in the left and right corners so that it doesn't show on my acetate. So I'm just adding a little bit of glue, and then I'm going to just kind of curve it around to the top, just like that. And then I'm going to pop up my little birds. So I'm just going to use some pop dots for this. And I think he looks cute over here. And then I'll do one more on this side, I think. And you can see just by, we took the exact same card design. We just added in some of that clear acetate and some of these pre-cut little or pre-printed little embellishments that we fussy cut out. And now you've taken that card design really, I think, to the next level. I think this is super cute. I'd be proud to give it to my friends. Again, here's that simple one that we created. And then here's the stepped up version. Same principle, same concept, just kind of popped it up a level. I'm going to go ahead and add one more little birdie. I liked it because it was red, and I think it pulls the red from the little pennant on the top. So I'm just going to tuck him behind his little buddy here. And how cute is that? Tweet birthday wishes, and you're my tweet friend. Anyway, I hope you liked this quick and simple card and then the stepped up version. And if you like my card designs, you like my work, I would love for you to follow me. If you could give me a thumbs up, I would greatly appreciate it. It helps me grow my channel.